Hello, and welcome to the Modern Romantic Podcast, where we celebrate and inspire romanticism through passionate people doing incredible things. Hi, I'm the ghost of Christmas productions past. I'm Trey, and I'm joined by my co host, Emily. Hi, Emily.
Did you hear a ghost just now? Because I thought I heard a ghost.
I know I'm incredibly pale, but you don't have to be mean about it.
No, no.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. How are you?
Um,
It feels like we haven't seen each other in a while.
I know. Well, I was so excited because and we didn't do this live, but last episode we were actually in the same town at the same time. And I was so excited. I wanted to share with everybody a picture that we took together so that everybody can see that we were literally in the same room at some point at the same time. So I'm just gonna hold my phone up. Look, look, it's us.
Yay! And we
We did
did,
it.
there were no edits whatsoever. We were in the same room.
It was great. I got all the way to Charlotte to see Trey and some other friends, and Trey had his rehearsals, so we're working, trying to work around a schedule, and it just didn't work. So the Twan Lunches episode I did myself from the hotel. Thank you, Trey, for loaning me your equipment, and you had rehearsal for your amazing show that I want you to plug quick.
Oh, yeah. So for anybody that is in the or near the Charlotte area, at Theater Charlotte until December 15th, you can watch a production of A Christmas Carol. This is a play that has music added to it, and I am a featured caroler in it. So you'll get to hear me sing in the lobby. You'll get to hear us sing throughout the show. It's a great time. Tickets are selling very quickly. We are already sold out for two of our performances. So please get your tickets now,
Right now.
right now.
Right now.
Well, after the podcast, but right now.
Yeah, don't leave us.
Yeah. So thank you for that time. And yeah, you're welcome anytime. And I can't wait to be in the same state again. We'll have to do that in another 5 years.
We should. You know, we could just take the states in between us. I don't know what they are, and I'm sorry for all of them that would be lost or moved or shuffled around like unnecessary organs. We'll just take. I'm sorry. We'll take Minnesota and the Carolinas. We'll just. And we'd have to knock like Illinois and Wisconsin and maybe Tennessee and a few others, just Virginia, West Virginia. I don't know. I'm sorry to everyone in those states, but you'll know when it happens.
We're kidding. We love you all. Thank you so much for watching. I am so excited to talk to our guest today. As soon as you told us that we had this gentleman on, and I started looking at
Hmm.
his biography, I was incredibly stunned, and I cannot wait to get into it. So, would you please introduce our fantastic guest today?
Absolutely. Today we have Dennis Warner on the show. He is like Minnesota's beloved folk artist, singer, songwriter. He does an amazing job with these live shows that he does in schools and libraries and all kinds of public appearances. And he's known for a song and a book called Beads on One String. And I can't wait to get into it. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Hey, thanks so much. It's so wonderful to be here.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for
Thank
joining
you for
us.
joining
Yeah.
us.
I was going to tell you too, the intro to this podcast. That is amazing, you guys. That's wonderful.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank
That
you.
video thing. Yeah.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun putting that together.
Good job.
It was a joy.
Yeah.
So, Dennis, kind of to kick us off, I see your work, and I'm very curious. What drew you to music first? Was it the storytelling element? Were you attracted more towards just like the music itself? Like, how did you really get started?
It was probably much simpler than any of that. I've known since I was a little kid what I wanted to do. Literally, I think I was singing before I was talking, from what people tell me. And in elementary school, I ran into one of my teachers in adult life from my elementary years, and she said, "Oh yeah, we called you the veritable warbler because you were always singing walking down the hallways of the school." And And one of my older brothers brought home a John Denver album, the Rhymes and Reasons album, when it came out. And there's something that was in his voice, even though his songs were serious, his voice had this energy, this passion in it, and he spoke to kids as well. You know, he wasn't trying to be a children's performer, but he spoke to kids. You know, the children and the flowers are my sisters and my brothers from the Rhymes and Reasons, and that's what really hooked me into that this is what I wanted to do for a career, is to be able to communicate. The communication that he gave and just hooked me. My dad was a semi-pro country western singer and songwriter, and doing a lot of the old-time country stuff, the storytelling songs. And it's very similar to folk, which is my passion, folk music. Those old country songs, they're often really sad breakup songs, but they were well-written story songs nonetheless. And so just had a lot of musical influences going on in those early years.
Do you ever use your dad's material, or is that just not the same?
No, not so much. He was a pretty good writer, and I should probably get back into his catalogs and stuff. He passed away back in 1991, I believe. So it's been a long time since I've really gone back into his stuff, because he did write. He was a lot of poems and stuff too, besides songs. Just see if there's something there now that would connect with me to be able to enhance or do something with. But he would just be singing the old Jimmy Rogers songs and that old stuff. And somewhere in the archives, in the Warner archives, is a cassette tape, or probably reel-to-reel tape, actually, of me singing in the background, "I'm Henry the Eighth, I am Henry the Eighth," while he played the guitar.
That's wonderful.
I thought it was cute.
It is.
That is amazing.
Good memories. Yeah.
It's like, "Now, son, that's your head voice. We'll teach you about that." I love that. I said, then making it a learning experience. "Now, son, that's your head voice."
Right?
But you ended up at St. Cloud, right?
Well, that's where I grew up. Right. Grew up in St. Cloud.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking college-wise.
Yeah, ended up in college there too. I did my first year of college up at Bemidji State University, and if you're local around here, you know that it is pronounced Bemidji State University because it's way up in northern Minnesota, and that was a great experience too. I got involved in a couple of great music programs. Pat Riley was the cello instructor up there, and I'd been playing cello since 5th grade. And so we got up there at a little scholarship, and he got me into the music there. And then I got to study choir with Paul Brandvig, who was quite a well-respected director in choral music throughout the Midwest. Learned so much from him. And so I was there for a year and pretty much had my minor in music completed after that first year. I didn't even know it. And then I transferred down to St. Cloud State. And my dad had gotten sick. We had some cancer stuff going on and heart things. And so I just came back to college and finished up at St. Cloud State, lived at home and helped out my mom and dad around the house and things like that. And all my siblings had all gone to St. Cloud State, so I was well familiar with the college and did 4 years there.
Okay.
So I was on the 5-year plan overall.
No shame in that.
No,
They
not at all.
eventually, well, I didn't declare a major till my senior year. They
Wow.
made me. They made me.
I think at that point they do, right?
Yeah, right. And I knew I was going to be a musician, so I didn't have any interest in taking too much math or too much science, where it gets really complicated and things. So I took the easy major. I took philosophy and
Okay.
Nice.
did a lot of writing. And what I liked about that is that you do a lot of writing and critical thinking and being able to express yourself. through the writings, which I thought was a smart thing to do for my career in music, to be able to write songs.
I was gonna ask because it
Yeah.
seemed like it would lend itself. Do you see that as like a? Do you see that still as a benefit now with the experience that you've had, or do you see that more just kind of as your foundation and your experience throughout like touring and writing your songs has contributed just to take your songwriting even further?
Yeah, I think I'm not quite sure where to get to, how to get to your question, but I see it as a way of enhancing and helping. Yeah, both the foundation of being a songwriter, where you can learn to, where you have an idea and you have to put it down on paper. You have to be able to express and that idea. The difference would be in philosophy, you're almost like an attorney in the court. You know, you're defending your positions. In philosophy, you're writing and explaining something, but you're defending why you believe this. In songwriting, you don't have to defend, you just say what you're feeling, and you only get 3.5 minutes to do that. So editing is crucial. But philosophy just taught me how to write. Yeah, the professors all, I mean, it's an important thing to, if you're not making sense, they're going to tell you. The old red pen is going to come out on the papers, and you have to go back and, and do better next time with being clear in what you're doing. So it gets you into that frame of mind that I've got to write to make sense.
That and the critical thinking skills, I think, are super important, not just for a vocation, but to be a well-rounded human. That sounds solid.
That's, history repeats itself. Everybody's heard that phrase. And when you read philosophy, these people from a long time ago, what they were saying, it still just comes around every 100 years, every couple 100 years. Oh, we're back to there again, are we? So it just helps to learn from your mistakes too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm curious if like anything from your philosophical readings inspired your first album.
First album. This is my 40th year in the business. Okay. We got to go back now. I can't think of anything on that first album that would have been inspired by any of my readings. That stuff kind of came out later. I think Perfect Morning is probably the album that maybe some of that philosophy started weaving its way in, where prior to that, I'd been down making a lot of trips to Nashville and taking songwriting workshops from famous writers and successful people, and did a lot of that. And then, wrote the songs and tried to pitch them to labels and to publishers and sing them out myself when I would be down there. So those were just attempts at trying to write commercially, those first few albums. But then once the Perfect Morning album came out in 1996, I think that's where I left the Nashville scene and decided I was going to go back to my roots of folk and start writing story songs and just really getting into what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. So that's happening. So that would have been 1996. Probably about my fourth album, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. Like, I'm glad that you found something that was true to you and that you went back to it, because you're now on your 11th album.
Yes, working on the 12th now.
Oh wow,
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
So did you ever tour before you came out with an album? Like, did you do live performances before that, or did live performances did that come first?
Yeah, live performances definitely came first. I graduated from college in '84 and pretty much went right out onto the road as a performer. And the first album didn't come out till 87 or 88. I had little demo cassettes, make like 3 songs or 4 songs so that you can try to get gigs. But one of the things that I did in college, besides philosophy, is I was part of the university program board on campus. So we would bring entertainers, we'd bring singers, musicians to campus. And I was in charge of the small concert series or the coffee house series. So I got to do the experience of reading through everybody's promo, deciding who I wanted to bring in, working with my budget, calling the performers or their agents, getting the contracts out, getting the promotions ready for their visit to campus, arranging the sound technicians and what people had to be in and what. So I had all this organizational things to do as a volunteer, but learning the backside of the music business. And that's probably really my second major, and even though it's not official, because I learned my career on the backside of it. So when I went out to perform, I already had promo. I knew what people needed, what venues needed as far as promotional materials, posters, photographs, things like that. A decent demo thing that they could listen to and decide whether they wanted to book me at that stage of my career. All this stuff, how to talk to venues, how to negotiate prices, things not to do, with certain performers that I would hire who would just be really hard to deal with and make me never want to deal with them again. And I didn't want to be that preferred. So I learned from their mistakes as well, just how to represent myself.
That's a lot of stuff. Like, I graduated with a degree in music, and those are things that they never taught us. That was stuff that they expected other programs to do, other people to teach us. It was all about the technique, those sorts of things. But it sounds
Right.
like you got the foundations, and you got a really solid, well-rounded education.
Yeah. Yeah. I really did. And I was heads and tails above other performers getting on the road that never had that experience. And they might years and never really know how to do it, from the presenter's point of view.
So
Still
how do
comes in
you
handy today.
I bet. I'm curious, like, for those people that are like I kind of starting out in the business, how would you tell them to balance their performance as an artist themselves, but also be learning the business? How does one balance that?
Yeah, that's a common question. I appear at a lot of different music conferences around the country, and I'm often in a mentorship role. We're being the old timer now, and, and people, they actually have sign up sheets to go meet with your mentors and things with young performers, and I love that. Um, and to be able to talk to them about, find out what their goals are and what they want to do, and to show them that if they're still in college, to get involved in activities and things like that. It's crucial, really, unless you're so good that you can have an agent. You've got to do that business stuff, a make or break thing for a lot of people in their careers.
That's good that's out there, though. Something where people could seek a mentor and get the advice they need.
Right. Right. I started doing that just unofficially, just when I realized that I was older than a lot of people starting in the business, after about 20 years in, and I would set up an exhibit booth, and it would attract all the newcomers would come by and just want to talk about the business. And I loved having something to share, that way. I've never seen music as a competition. And our society seems to like that for some reason. They like all the awards program. Every week there's a different awards program on. It seems, it's not a competition. There's plenty of room for all of us to put music out there, as we're seeing now with the internet, where you can put anything out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody ever listens. It's not like buying a car where you can probably just afford one. maybe
Right.
two. It's not like that. You listen to so many different artists and so many different types of music. Very few
Right.
people. I don't know anyone who ever just listens to one artist.
Right.
That's kind of insane. So there is room for everyone.
Yep. Yep. All different styles. I just love a good song. A country song can be great. A rock and roll song can be great. A blues song can be great. Doesn't matter. Just as long as it's got to have certain elements to it to be well written. It's got to make sense. If it's too far out there, then it's somebody else might get it, but I don't understand it.
Right. So what's your inspiration for the album you're working on now?
Oh boy, lots of different things. I don't write as prolifically as I used to. Now it's just a few songs a year, maybe, but I'm also trying to make my words count. If I know that something is just not that good, I don't get very far into it, or I'll quit on it if I just think like it's going to be problems or something. And sometimes I just write for an exercise of writing, just so I don't forget how to put things together. So while I may not write as many songs, I think what I write now is better quality all the way around. So I've got a few of those going. And I'm not one who does solely my own music. And that's something I also will tell performers that are coming out. You don't have to do all your own songs, and it's okay. It adds a nice variety to the show, actually, if you have a different style of a song in the program. My
That's
opinion,
something.
it makes it more entertaining. And the people that I watched and admired, from John Denver to other people, James Taylor, they all do other people's materials too.
And that's something that I liked about your show when I saw you perform, was that you mixed it up, and you also mixed it up with some fun things too. Like I'm My Own Grandpa sticks
Yeah.
out as something that was really fun that everybody's kind of heard before, if at least part of it. And you
Well, you're up there in Stearns County. I mean, that's.
wow.
Hey, I'm in Stearns County too, just an hour away from it. I grew up here. I can say that.
Yeah, I didn't. So but I mean it was entertaining, and it was an interesting facet to your show, and I liked that. So
Yeah, thanks. That's the song my dad used to sing.
oh,
Yeah,
very
and
nice.
I was just a kid, and he really did a nice job with that. And before he passed away, he taught me how to sing that. I asked him if he would teach me that song. Yeah, it's a complicated song.
I, I have only heard it once in my lifetime, and I got about 2 minutes into it before my parents turned it off, realizing what was being discussed at the time, and they were
Uh-huh.
like, "Yeah, nope, we're shutting this down."
Yep, yep. On YouTube, I've got a version on YouTube that's closing in on 1 million hits right now. So it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, and the way you
Amazing.
sing it makes it easy to follow, and that's what
Yeah,
I liked about it too.
I didn't realize that my dad had really changed it a little bit in the
Hmm.
chorus. In the original recordings from the 1940s and stuff, the chorus doesn't come around until the very end. They tell the whole story, and I
Oh,
threw the chorus in there towards the beginning too. So it's just a little fun thing.
Interesting. Do you, with some of the songs that you performed, like if they're not originally yours and you perform them in your own style, do you ever find that you are emphasizing different parts or saying some lyrics slightly different than they were how they were originally performed?
All the time. Yep. I think every song I've ever covered, I've adjusted something in the emphasis of what's important to me. And I think that's kind of the advice that I got from other performers and that did other people's material as well. Is you got to make the song your own. You got to whatever attracted you to the song, that's what you're going to bring out. And you're going to bring out something different in the song. Yeah, so that's important to me, to make it my own, make it feel like I wrote it.
That's good advice.
I agree.
So at one point, I'm sorry, Trey, were you done? I apologize.
It was in thought.
I was very much in thought, yes.
So yes, you're done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. This happens sometimes where we're like, were you gonna say something? Yeah. Now you took a trip at some point, yes, and it I want to say I have the story right, so I should just let you tell it. Tell us about how the origin story of Beads on One String.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I performed. This is 20 years ago now. Beads on One String came out 20 years ago. I played the Taste of Champagne. Any Illinois people out there? Yeah, the Taste of Champagne, this huge festival, 100,000 people milling about and just cooking out there. And I drove down there to do my hour set, and got back in the car to drive to Minnesota, turned on the air conditioning, and just started thinking about this. I knew it was going to be a long drive home because I was exhausted from the heat and everything. So I just did this to keep my mind going. I just sometimes just try to get ideas in writing. But I had this visual image of this beaded necklace, where every bead on the necklace is a different size, shape, and color, but all held together by the one string. And that's exactly how I see us all around the world. And I'll tell you the long story of the song here, since we've got some time too, because I don't always share this. So I started writing about the different beads, and kind of a cultural diversity kind of song, where every bead is so different from each other. But and I got about halfway through the song, and to me it was boring. I wasn't sharing any new information. All we have to do is look at each other and see how different we are from each other. And so I just did a writer's trick. Sometimes when you get writer's block or can't come up with an idea, just, instead of heading this direction, just change it and go this direction with the song and see what happens. Just change something on it. And I did that. So instead of writing about the differences, I started writing about the things we have in common with each other, which I feel that has been overlooked a lot or forgotten about, or it's not so easy to see that when you all the fighting we've got going on and differences of opinion and all this and that we just maybe are losing track of the things that we share, the things we have in common. And so that's the direction I went with the song. It's a song about our connectedness, and I realized then when I had it done that I hadn't written the song so much about the beads as it was a song about the string and the importance of that string, the commonalities that hold us together. And so the song came out. I started singing the song in my concerts, and it was very well received. Probably better at that time than any other song that I'd written. It was great comments, and I'd get teachers that would be in some of my shows, and they would come up to me afterwards and say, "Oh, that would be a great children's song. Would you ever make that into a book? It'd be a great book." And I don't know how to do a book. I'm not an author, but we tossed it around here, Tammy and I, and talked to a person that we knew in the publishing business, and so they agreed to kind of help us, but I needed an illustrator. I'm not a painter and I can't draw. So this guy we knew was helping us, showing us different books and different people that are illustrators for hire. I remember some from Dallas and Denver and LA and New York, and I wasn't connecting with any of these style. What I was seeing on paper, just I don't see that being the book. And then this gal that I'd met at some of my shows around Minnesota here, she'd given me her contact information. Of course, she was in my computer then. When people give me their information, I enter it into my database. And so I thought about her. She said she was an artist, you know. I knew that, I guess, and so I got a hold of her and said what I was doing, what I was looking for, you know, to self-publish this book. And she said she'd never illustrated a children's book, but she would love a chance to do it. She said if I could give her, I think maybe a couple of weeks, and she'd send me some pages of how she would envision this turning out. And she did. And it was like, yeah, that works. That works. And so her name is Allison Love Unzelman. And she only lived, 15 minutes from our house, 20 minutes from our house here in Clearwater. So it's like perfect.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
I was able to be over there during the creative process, you know, and since she hadn't done a children's book before, there was a lot of trial and error, but perseverance on her part. And she's just so talented. I mean, she did just an amazing job and just helped bring the book to fruition, you know. The only thing left was to pay for
The fun
it.
part.
Oh yeah, right. You know, we shopped it around, sent it to, I don't know, half dozen different publishers just to see it, and you know, rejected by everybody. And so we said, we'll just self-publish this thing. Yeah, but now it's in our 9th printing now.
Wow.
20 years later. Yeah. St. Cloud State, then we got a hold of the education department, got a hold of a copy and called me up to write a curriculum for elementary schools. At that time, this is only 20 years ago, but bully prevention was not in the elementary schools. It was in the high schools. It was in the junior highs, middle schools, but there was nothing in the elementary schools. And so they used it as a pilot project around Minnesota. And they introduced me to MEA here, the largest teachers union, Minnesota Education Association, and where you go and there's thousands of teachers there, and so you get to present to them, and they just loved it. And the book, just the curriculum, I developed a school program that was used for bully prevention, and this curriculum is still being used today. And we do programs all over the country, in different countries now as well, centered around Beads on One String. Bullying, sadly, bullying in schools is not limited to the United States. It is, you know, it's all around in other countries as well. So there's some countries are a little more proactive, or able to nip it in the bud a little bit earlier, but it's still there. And yeah, it's just so well received everywhere that we go.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what a great purpose for that to end up having, you know, to form those ideas in, you know, for kids at such an age. I think that's fabulous. And, you know, we probably don't think about bullying at that age, but I mean, a lot of us were bullied that young.
Right. I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not Trey. He was never bullied.
Oh,
I'm just
kidding.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's not create falsehoods. No.
No.
Right.
No, I think that's amazing. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I love the concept of it, what makes us united. To your point earlier, you talked about how the music industry can seem like it's trying to divide people or create competition, whereas something like this is connecting what unifies us. I think we as a society often talk about, well, we need to come together and be united, and yet there are things that we do that are almost counterintuitive to that. So it's this weird dichotomy of, we're saying let's come together, but also we're also doing things to force us apart.
Right.
So what are things that people could do from your perspective, what are things that people could do even in their own daily life to recognize the things that unite us rather than the things that divide us?
Right. Well, one of the things when I go into a school and talk with the kids. And I think we all need to do that, no matter what our age. But just make a commitment to say something positive about the people that we're with. If you notice that somebody has new glasses or new hairstyle or new clothes or something, just say, "Hey, that's cool. I like that." Um, just acknowledge people. Just say hi as you're passing on the street. Just anything that you can do to be positive and project positive energy is good. Just even just a little bit of something by saying hello or smiling at somebody. That sometimes people just need a smile back. They just need to feel that connection to somebody. I think we get that being Midwesterners. When Minnesota Nice, we all heard about the Minnesota Nice or whatever, and I guess it's some sort of a thing because you go somewhere else in the country and they'll say, "You're not from around here, are you?" So we don't talk to each other down here. Something. Yeah, it's interesting. Different areas of the world have different norms for behavior, I guess. And I don't know. I've always felt like I just needed to connect to people and talk to them.
It's powerful.
Yeah, that's just the little things that we can do, is just to try to say something or do something to make somebody's day better. The cashiers at the grocery store, or wherever.
It's something, having worked retail for a very long time, it's something that in a lot of retail training, they teach you to pick something about the person walking in, or about the day, or about the car they drove in on, or something they're carrying. Pick something and say something
Right,
positive about it, because it does kind of create a connection,
right,
even if you're just commenting on the game that happened last night, or the something that maybe you'd have in common. Something beyond just the weather. Many times when you comment on somebody's shoes and give them positive feedback, or on their
right,
hair, like you said, or on their, whatever, something they're carrying, and it it changes. And if that's ever happened to you, you know what that feels like, and that can change your entire day. It could change your week. And so being that person gives it, that's very powerful.
exactly.
And at first, when I was taking that retail training, I remember thinking, this is so fake. This is so fake. I cannot be this person. I am not someone who is, I was never someone who was complimented much, nor was I someone to compliment. And so it was very difficult for me to change. But I was like, all right, let me make it my own. Kind of like someone else's song. Let me make it my own. Let me figure out a way that feels right for me, that's not fake, because as this entire year has shown us, the theme of our podcast this year is authenticity. I needed it to be authentic. And especially because, having been a manager, I needed to be able to teach that to other people and get behind it. And I can't if it's not authentic.
Right,
So, but it did change me, and it is important, and I saw it and felt it, and you're 100% right.
yep. Just need to practice. It's like anything, and then all of a sudden it becomes natural.
And it's not a gimmick.
Right,
It's not something just to get a sale. It really is a way to connect with people and the public, and I think it would change anyone who tried it.
right, right.
It's challenging, I will say, I think, in the post pandemic when we're not forced to do that sort of connection with each other. And it's a skill that, after having been in isolation, that really needs to be a little bit more flexed. Yes, we had Zoom. Yes, we have these things that help connect us over the internet so that we don't have to be face to face in person. But it's still something that needs to be shared and practiced. So I find myself personally still struggling with that, and making some of those connections in person, it's still a little awkward. But I do like that idea of finding one thing and then complementing. It's that skill that, even though I've worked in retail, that I've kind of forgotten after all these years. So yeah, I appreciate the perspective.
Well, I
So,
like your shirt, Trey. Did you make it?
thanks, I did actually.
You made that?
I did, yes.
Oh, cool.
I sourced the fabric and everything. For our listening audience, it is an abstract print of pandas in different colors that I sourced, and it was nice, stretchy, and yeah. Sorry.
I didn't realize those were pandas until you just now. I thought it was like
I
just
gotta put my
little
glasses on. Are those really
blips of.
panda?
Sorry.
Sure enough, I see them now.
Yeah, I'll get a little bit closer. But yeah, they are different pandas that have a little bit of. Sorry.
No,
They
that's all right.
They are pandas that have been like a little bit of tessellation together, but it's just an abstract print of pandas.
I love it.
I get really bored of men's clothing being like the same 3 patterns over and over again. So
Right.
I wanted something a little fun and different. And see, now just that like opened the door for conversation. It seemed really genuine. And it also
seemed- it was.
and it felt and it made me feel a lot better. So there it is in practice, folks. It works.
You're welcome, guinea pig. That was wonderful. I had no idea those were pandas. Yeah, that's amazing. I will never see the shirt because you wear it once in a while. I'll never see it the same again, which is good. Yeah, now I'm seeing it for what it really is.
Oh, but okay. I love that. I love that that was a nice learning moment, and it was genuine. It really, for me, it was genuine. So you going into some of these schools, you had said that it was very well received by some of the students. I'm curious, like, what are some other things or other questions that you've been asked by the kids that you've gone into these programs? Like, have they asked very thought-provoking questions? Like, what sorts of things were they asking you about?
Besides, am I married and how much money do I make? Am I rich? Am I famous? Other than those are the top 4.
That's fair. Now, on the flip side, have you ever been stumped by any of their questions?
Stumped in how to answer them, maybe.
Including this question.
Well, more like, are you famous? Well, define what that is.
Who asks that?
To a first grader, I might be.
Oh yeah, okay.
Sure.
To the teacher, no. They've never heard of me. So yeah, I mean, those are just tricky questions to kind of work around, because you recognize that in their world, yeah, I'm on stage. They've maybe only been to one other concert in their life or something. I don't know. No, I can't think of being stumped. No, I can't think of anything like that. The questions are usually related to my career, about traveling. I'm working in elementary schools, for the most part.
That sounds like sorry.
No, go ahead.
That sounds like a joyous job.
It is. And probably one of the more interesting things that I had come up was after a concert. And I'm tearing down my equipment and stuff in the gym, and I don't know, the principal came in and said they just had kids leaving your show. A couple of kids got into this little fight out in the hallway. It's like, really not listening. And I said, this kid, they really liked the show, and the principal was wondering if I could go in and talk to one of the kids, the kid that instigated the fight, because they can't talk to him for whatever reason. He's not communicating with the principal. So I said, sure, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a trained counselor, but I can go in and just just talk. So we're just talking in the about his life and music, what kind of music he listens to and stuff. And after, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, he just kind of opens up about his own life and how he's bullied at home. And it turns out that the way he was picking on this kid that instigated the fight was the way that his older brothers pick on him and make him feel. So I was like, voila, here we go. And so I was able to share that with the principal, and she thought that was just awesome, because now she knew what's happening, and why it's happening. And they had a path to go on. So that was pretty cool, that we just music was opened the door, just talking about bands and things like that, and then leading to a deeper conversation.
I'm sure that that kid, like, his life has now changed for the better because of that, and you took the time to have that with him.
I'd like to believe that. I hope so. Yeah, that would be great.
You said something really valuable there, and that was about the connection. And I thought, art kind of does that. Music specifically does that. It really helps people connect and communicate, like you said at the beginning. And I think that's awesome that you were able to make that difference. I'm sure that's just one life that you have been able to make that difference in.
Right. Yeah.
Among many.
Well, yeah, you hope so, and you don't know. There's a spiritual principle that I read about, that it doesn't matter if you help just one person or you help 1,000 people. The karma or whatever the spiritual goodness that comes from it is the same, whether it's one person or 1,000 people you're helping. And then that goes along with sayings of just being able to, help do what you can. If you can only afford to bring one can of food to the food shelf, that's better than not. For the person receiving that, that's a good thing. We do what we can.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to try to save the whole world. Just do what we can to make it positive. And if everybody did something that was positive, it'd be a whole lot better. My philosophy. Yeah.
I think that's why Emily and I do this podcast, for that reason of doing something positive.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I loved it when I was reading them, when you invited me, Emily, and I was reading about the podcast. I thought, yeah, this is definitely something I would like to do. This is great.
Thank you. I'm very excited you said yes.
Great.
Yeah. We like hearing about the people that were affected positively, whether they were encouraged or inspired or motivated. It's always it tells us it's very validating, but it tells us we're doing the right thing, and it's good for us too.
Yeah, good. Yeah, there's plenty of hypocrisy going around in the entertainment and arts and things. People, we want less violence, and we want more peace in the world. Yet the TV shows that we watch are about murder and and crime and all this ugliness. It's like, how do we connect the dots here? If we want this kind of a world, we need to live this kind of a world.
I remember when the Oprah Network was a new thing. I don't remember what year that was, but they were taking these ideas. You could pitch an idea and like get a show out of it, or they would make a show, but you could pitch these show ideas back when that started. And I had a couple show ideas, but one of them was kind of along what you said. And it was a show with like a host, and they would go into kind of like that show Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe, if you remember that show.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. It was like that, but it would be someone going around the country or the world. It didn't matter, but finding the people doing good by finding the people who were, donating, volunteering their time, or whether they were doing that or not. It was just the people that were uplifting other people somehow, and featuring those people in all the different ways in the world that we're doing that, and regular people doing amazing things in
Right.
that capacity. And I thought if we could highlight that in a show and make a show of it, I thought that would be awesome. So Oprah, if you're listening, that's my pitch for the show. Please don't steal it. Please don't steal it. I would love to do this show. That would be so amazing.
Right.
Actually, I don't remember where this was, but I saw it on TikTok. If we can have 10 seconds to just talk about something positive that I saw, there was a new extension of a school built, and like a new building that was built. And there was this town that kind of rallied together, and the students that are now about to go into this new building got to vote on the name of the school. You want to know who
Oh,
they named it after?
Oh,
Not somebody famous, not some historical figure from the town. They named it after the janitor.
oh,
isn't that cool?
He,
Woo.
no, I'm sorry, she not only is the janitor, she will fill in for the admin whenever an admin is out. She will drive some of the school buses.
oh, wow.
She literally does so much for these kids. So they named it after her.
That's how it should be.
Right. Right. Yep.
100%.
I'm not crying, you are.
As a former school bus driver, I endorse that.
Yeah. Wow. That's how it should be, right? I mean,
Yep.
these are the people that we should be looking up to and
Yep.
rewarding.
Right. I've felt since I've been doing these school programs and really learning what teachers do during the day and the many hats and the important role that they play. Why aren't these the highest paid people that we have out there? Because they're heroes. I think so. I've seen enough of it all around the country that what they do is just amazing. Yeah. And you go into, like when we did the tour through South Africa, and we saw these teachers too. They're the same over here. They put their own money and things into helping kids because the kids don't have much over there in these areas where we were at. So the teachers who don't have much either would sacrifice for these kids. They love these kids so much.
Wow.
Yeah, teachers are amazing.
Keith in the chat said Steve Hartman's show is a good example of making a difference on whatever level you can. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't heard of that.
who's Steve Hartman? Yeah,
Steve
wow,
Hartman.
cool.
Keith also said that if you're a musician from Minnesota but known in Africa, then you're famous.
I mean, it's true.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
Well, Dennis, I really just have like two last questions for you. I know I've asked a litany of questions, but two last ones for you. The first one is there are tons of people coming into the music industry who are wanting to dive into it or who are just learning music for the first time. And I was wondering, do you have any advice for them?
Practice. If you love it, no matter what, even if you're not a musician, if you're a woodworker, an artist, a painter, whatever it is, practice your craft. Practice what you love, and learn about it. Nowadays, you've got YouTube to go on and see how their techniques are done. If you're a musician, you can watch the actual fingerings of these chords that when I was a kid, you'd have to listen to in the headphones and play it over and over to try to imagine what their fingers are doing. Yeah, I just, to be good at something, you just need to put the time into it. Wouldn't matter what genre you were going in, even classical music. I spent a lot of years in classical music, so I know how hard that is too, and what you got to do. Yeah.
Can attest to that. The hours in the practice room.
Right, right. You know, and it's not, and when you're doing something you love, it's not so bad to practice, because you hear yourself getting better, and you know that you're getting closer to your goals.
You said something there. You're watching yourself achieving the goals. And I think practicing and having goals kind of need to go hand in hand with that.
Yeah, even if you're just playing for a hobby, you're coming home from your job and you just want to unwind and and just learn a new chord on a guitar.
Yeah.
That's easy. Just do one thing a day.
Yeah, that's progress.
Yeah,
And
Uh,
and that's
comparing,
amazing.
oh,
You know,
sorry.
you build that up over a year's time, and you look back. If you learned one thing a week, that'd be 52 new things you would learn in that year.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a lot of growth.
So I feel like, last thing, I feel like people get in their heads of what progress should look like, and progress, any kind of movement forward, even at some kind of small percentage, that's still progress.
Right.
My other question for you is, if you could go and have lunch with anybody in the world, they can be alive or dead, and you got to spend an hour with them just to pick their brain,
Hmm.
who would it be and why?
Oh, to narrow it down to one person, one. Whew.
That's hard.
The Modern
Well,
Romantic Podcast and asking the hard questions.
John Denver would be an easy one for me to just totally enjoy having a conversation about life with, because he lived life to the fullest. Just yeah, that would be a good one. But certainly a number of philosophers and spiritual leaders and things. Yeah, uh, it's hard to pick, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, we'll try and get you some tickets to have multiple luncheons with multiple people. How does that
There
sound?
you go. That'll do it. I have time on my hands here. It's winter in Minnesota.
Well, if you can send some of the snow down to the Carolinas, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Really? Okay.
Really?
Seriously,
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
love some.
Okay.
We'll take you up on that.
Maybe it's just me. I'm sorry to anybody in North Carolina. Sorry, but also not.
I feel
The
like we could hold off long enough for North Carolina to like recover from the hurricane, and then
They need some normality.
yeah,
Good point. Good point.
and then when they're ready, we'll have the snow.
Right.
We'll have plenty still.
Good point. I'll rescind that statement. Uh,
We'll
so
just put a hold on
and hold. Dennis, I truly have to say that I love your perspective on life. It sounds like it's about the connections. It's about really diving in and doing the work, and it's really just about getting out there and doing it. And it sounds like you have prospered from that, and it sounds like other people who have found you have also prospered from hearing you talk about this and listening to your music. So I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for those words, and we appreciate it. We all just do what we can, right?
Yeah,
Yep. Thank you. You guys do a great job here. It's a pleasure to be on here.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to maybe having you back someday.
I'm in.
Make sure that our listening audience can stay in touch with you. Where are some places that they can find you online?
I have a couple of albums, I guess, on Spotify. I'm still working on getting the other ones out there. Otherwise, just my website is warnersongs.com, WARNERSONGS.com. And send me an email or find me on Facebook, Dennis Warner Music on Facebook.
Very cool. Oh, and I do want to call out Ronette Kennedy Trulson says, thanks, very interesting. Good to see you, Dennis.
Hey, thanks for stopping in.
Well,
Great.
as we close this episode out, this episode, along with probably every other podcast, will be dedicated to Joe Capone. You can find us on most social media platforms under Modern Romantic. And we also have a Patreon. So check out Patreon for any behind-the-scenes content. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.